Everybody, welcome to Rock, Paper, Hand Grenades. I'm Matt Connerton, and to my right, wearing a lighter jacket than usual, the Honorable Gary S. Hopper.
Top of the evening to you, Matt.
What do you call that? Is that like a taupe? Or
a taupe?
Or that's a color, I think, or a beige or something, or like a cream color, or what do you call that?
Matt.
I never learned my colors.
Matt,
yes.
Listen, you're a guy.
Yeah.
Okay. All you got to know is like 6 different colors. You don't have to know all them there shades in between.
Well, that's a lot less pressure.
It is a lot. Girls can go in some place and they'll say, "Oh, that's frickin' aqua and chartreuse and all those other weird words." I don't know what chartreuse is.
I don't either.
Okay, and that's good. That's part of being a guy. You don't have to know.
Right. Sounds like a name.
They say, "What color is it?" You go, "It's either blue, brown, green, or red."
Unless you're an interior designer or something, then you have to know that stuff.
Okay, wait. Now, how many internal designers do you know that really have a man card? If you know what I'm saying.
I know what you're saying.
All right. Just saying. I'm not trying to impugn the character of anybody except everybody whose character I just impugned.
Sure. Yeah.
Except them.
Right,
with the exception of them.
Right.
Anyway,
yes.
Jack Flanagan's my guest tonight, the Honorable Jack Flanagan. And the problem is, I don't think he really actually watched the show before he agreed to come on.
I did ask him if he had a good sense of humor.
Actually, I did. I think I've seen clips.
That doesn't do it justice.
Various other things.
Injustice.
But,
depends on, I guess, how you look at it.
Knowing you, Gary, I just assumed there'd be a certain amount of humor involved.
Oh, okay. That is really weird you said that. What the heck did I do? I had, remember last week we had, Franklin Graham came to the Capitol.
Yes, and I felt bad because I had to be somewhere and I walked right through the crowd
Oh, yeah?
going the other direction.
Well, as long as you get your picture, it's a political thing. As long as you get your picture taken in the crowd, you're good.
I've had a few pictures taken.
So... Anyway, so I met a couple of guys from church, and one of the guys from church brought, I think it was 3 or 4 of the kids from church, and they were pretty cool. I brought them in. I one of them in because it was really cold that day. I brought one of them.
I remember that day. It was windy too.
Wicked bad.
It was windy.
The fact that there was that many people there on such a cold day shows a lot of dedication. But anyway, I brought one of them up and brought him up to the Secretary of State's office, and I stole 4 of the
Constitution.
He's got the Constitution.
Yeah,
they get if anybody's you go into the Secretary of State's office, as you walk in the door on the right, over on the right on the bookshelf is stacks of New Hampshire Constitutions, which are free. I say steal just because it makes me feel like I'm bad to the bone.
Yeah.
But anyway, so after the Franklin Graham speech about basically his whole thing was getting back to our roots of a conservative Christian nation. But I went over with the kids to have lunch with my friend from church, Charlie, and the kids. And the reason I bring it up is because at the end I was going through the 10th Amendment with them and the different things in the Constitution, and they actually were paying attention, which is unusual because they were around the 10 to 14 age, or 8 to 14, somewhere in there. And I'm getting up to walk away, and now all I know these kids from is church. Okay?
Yeah.
Says, well, aren't you going to say something funny, like tell us a joke or something? It's like, talk about pressure. Luckily, I had one that I could say in mixed company. I think it's the only one.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's just funny.
You talk about the Constitution too. I believe the state curriculum has sometime in September a week of learning about the state and federal constitutions.
It does?
Yes, I believe it's mandated, I believe, based on federal funding.
These days, was the teacher that they were done by people who were oppressed minorities and therefore should be taken seriously?
I think, I think what we
cynical, sorry.
Well, you probably see it when the kids come. I always ask them if they know the 3 branches of government.
Right.
And usually most of them do. It's a pleasantly surprised to see that they know the legislative, judiciary, and the executive. But yeah, I think a lot of school districts do have provision in there for civics. Remember civics?
No.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, I know. I know that it's you watch some of the YouTube videos out there and it's severely lacking. What was one of the ones I watched the other day was a guy He does a lot of these videos. He asks people like questions.
Oh, it's sort of like the guy on O'Reilly there.
Yeah, that guy.
oh.
There's a couple of them like that. And he's out there.
Yeah.
He's on a pier or something, asking people.
Jesse Waters.
Jesse Waters.
Yes.
He's saying, "Well, Hillary's plan to get rid of the
First Amendment.
the amendments to the Constitution. No, the Bill of Rights.
Yeah.
Says, you think it's a good idea what Hillary's doing, which is we sign a petition to get rid of the Bill of Rights, and people are
Saying
signing
yes.
it.
They say yes.
It's
I
like,
know.
wow. As long as you say Hillary Clinton endorses it, they're out there signing, they're putting their name, and it's amazing how ignorant.
I saw a statistic once. As you go further, shall we say, down, I mean, people know who the president is, less people know who the vice president is.
Right.
Very few people know who their senator is and their congressman.
Right.
But by the time they get to our level, where we're serving a state, unless they directly know us in the town,
Right.
I think there's something like 10% of the people know who.
I'll
they
bet you
represent.
that percentage is a lot higher in New Hampshire. Only by virtue of the fact there's a lot more of us that, they know us from church or they know us here.
That's
You
true.
know what I mean?
That's true.
Whereas, if you're if you win your seat for Congress, how many people in half of the state, that's, what is that, 600,000 people
about
could really
total.
know you.
But that's not all the people vote. Just so the people know, in case the FEC is watching, as I am in an exploratory committee and I haven't officially announced.
Oh, you're exploring.
Yeah, I'm exploring. Yeah, and,
Pam Tucker was exploring when
Yes.
she came on, too.
Yeah, and I haven't heard anything further.
yeah.
Well, no.
The presidential candidates are, pardon me, sucking the air out of the room right about now.
That's true.
I mean, all of the, all the stories, all the news, it's all about them.
Yeah,
And,
so why commit to anything when you can't
Well,
even...
right. I mean, it's, people,
Right.
a lot of attention's being there, but after February 9th, you'll see stuff, rattle through.
Okay, so you're thinking about running for Congress.
Correct.
You were the majority leader, and
Yep.
then you stepped down so you could pursue this, because
Yes.
obviously the
Yep.
time constraints would be difficult to do both.
Absolutely. And you're well aware of this. We had about 700 bills.
You'd be amazed at how much I'm unaware of.
That's true. Yeah,
Right?
Oh,
You'll
yeah.
back me up
Sure,
on that.
sure.
All right.
and he hides it. He hides it. No, last year there were about 650 bills, and as the majority leader, every bill would go through the Republican majority office because we wanted to make sure they were good, bad, or supporting or not supporting.
Right.
But the number is going to be 700 this year, the 2-year term. And I just didn't have the time to dedicate to, going through every bill, testifying in various committees if need be.
Right.
And my door was always open. So if you had an issue, you could come to me and say,
I got a lot of issues, but I
Yeah,
don't think I ever talked
as
to
it
you about
related
this.
to legislation.
Oh, yeah,
So
that's different.
the consensus with the speaker and myself was that I would step down, and he had asked me if I would be willing to still be part of leadership, and I said yes, and he opened up a spot on the Labor Committee.
Okay.
I'm now the vice chair, serving under Will Infantine, who's from Manchester. I
Yep,
believe,
yep.
yeah. And so I'm back on that committee. I remember Gary Daniels. Remember Senator Daniels?
Yeah.
It's actually the Labor, Industrial, and Rehabilitative Services.
Yeah.
The acronym is LIARS.
Oh.
But I really enjoyed it. It deals with workers' compensation law, unions,
Right.
minimum wage, salaries, things like that.
What did you do years ago? Remember under O'Brien, what did you do on Right to Work? How'd you vote on that?
I voted for it, but we actually came out of committee where it said that if you didn't join the union, you couldn't receive any of the benefits. And the union, what do they call it? Not scab, but a freeloader.
Right.
I asked actually to put that provision into it. And most union members are in agreement that they don't want freeloaders getting the same benefits they are without paying the dues.
Right.
But it went to the Senate, and all of a sudden that provision went away.
Right.
And I don't know what happened.
Right.
But the whole issue about right to work is going to be argued in the Supreme Court. There's currently a case dealing with it's California Teachers Union, I believe, where they're questioning basically the First Amendment. You have a right to associate, but you also have a right not to associate.
Right.
And in this case, that's what the argument is. And
That
then
they have a right not to not be forced
to join. Right?
Yeah, I think we heard some of those arguments on the House floor. I just never bought it. I kind of figured if you put out an application to be at a certain place of employment,
and they're
You've already
unionized.
chose to
Yeah.
associate with the people that work there.
Right,
so.
right.
I think the big thing is I completely understand why people would want to unionize. I mean, I've been a selectman, a school board chairman,
Yeah.
things like that, and I remember in the past, we don't have any money in the budget, so no one's getting raises, and after a while, I think that gets old for the employees and the staff.
Yep.
So I can see why collective bargaining is the only route that they have. It's just that as part of management, if I could use that term, you've got to find ways to be productive with, the union.
With limited leverage and
Exactly.
stuff like that.
Or as Donald Trump would say, negotiate the best deal you can. I mean, but every time I did, I mean, it was a pretty cooperative arrangement. They usually wanted salary, benefits.
Yeah.
We either wanted, more time on the job, better expectations, things like that. I mean,
Yeah.
But, I don't have any problems with the unions. I just think that part of that First Amendment gives you the right of not associating.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that the one reason I have not, I'm not, I'm kind of ambivalent towards unions. I'm for and against.
Right.
I don't have a, like some Republicans just have this animosity, period.
Yeah.
And whatever we can do to screw the unions is good enough for me, And I'm not like that.
I'm not really either.
No, you never have struck me as that. But I do know, my point was, I do know that if like, for instance, teachers,
Right.
okay, if teachers weren't unionized, what they would do is they would fire anybody that had more than 10 years
Oh,
of
right.
experience
No,
and
to get
hire a kid
less
out of college.
Exactly.
And the administrators would still be making $100,000 because they love administrators, especially in Manchester. I don't know what you got. They have like this addiction to administrators. Every week they're hiring a new administrator.
I will tell
They
you,
should have
I
an
know
administrator
some-
of the administrators of the administrator.
I know some people that work in the Manchester School District, and some of them are very hard-working teachers and staff. I just think that they could get a lot better result in Manchester if they were maybe a little bit more supportive to their staff. I mean,
Well,
compared to
they should probably hire an administrator to do that.
well, the point being is though is if you look.
There you go.
I got all the
But
answers.
Gary, in all reality, is if you go to schools, in rural areas.
Yeah.
I live in Brookline.
Yeah.
And there's probably more moose than there are people, but the reality is that teachers are coveted in those school districts, and they tend to do and have better outcomes. And I don't mean monetarily. I just mean that a lot of people feel that the teachers are the core of the school.
Well, they
So,
are.
yeah.
I mean, if you have teachers that care and are doing a good
Right.
job,
Right.
but the thing is especially the bigger the school district gets and the more politicized it becomes,
Right.
the less and less teachers who have any kind of experience have for protection. And if all of a sudden, I mean, a lot of them, like nowadays, have master's degrees and everything else, but they're still not making even remotely close to what some of the firefighters in Manchester are making.
Yeah. Well, some areas, a guidance, for example, you have to have a master's degree in social work
Right,
to be a guidance counselor.
right.
Yeah, I mean, you.
I remember when we were going to school, it used to be the coach. The coach would be the coach one day, and then he'd be like an substitute teacher, and he'd go in.
And boy, you never gave that substitute a hard time.
No,
Remember,
I
in the-
did. I
in the
did
days.
actually, but
Oh.
he wanted to hit me one time. But anyway, yeah. So that's just one issue. What are the issues? Why did you ran for? I know you were like on the school board and stuff like that for a while, and very active in your town
Local,
first.
yeah.
And then you ran for state legislator. And what's your passion? What is the issues that really got you involved? Because you obviously didn't go to Concord for the money.
Yeah, that's for sure. Neither did you.
No, I did. I'm just not too sharp.
Yeah, well, as you said, locally, I mean, I was the vice chair of a cooperative school district.
Yep.
And my children were younger, so they were in our own personal elementary school district. So I ran for that seat, and I eventually became the chairman of the school district. And we've had fairly good results in both Hollis and Brookline school districts. I mean, we pride ourselves for having some of the better schools. And then what happened was, after my kids started getting older, they didn't want to see me, at the high school, you know what I mean? So,
No,
so
when
I
they
s-
get a certain age, they don't even want to see you at all.
Exactly. Yeah, we're the worst people in the world.
Right.
But so I basically took a break, and then I was approached by the selectmen in town because one of them had quit. I had served in the finance committees just to stay involved, and so I ran. They appointed me as selectman. I re-ran and won. But Dick Driscoll, I don't know if you remember Dick Driscoll.
Yes,
from
I do.
Hollis.
Yeah.
He came to me in 2009 and said, Don Ryder had
Dick Driscoll. You know what? Dick was the
election
one.
law.
No, he was the one who had a bill. This is my first, because I was working right when I first got elected. I was actually working right on the Hollis Brookline line.
Oh, were you?
At XRA? I'm sorry, Kirk Motion.
Oh, heck no! It's right down the street from my house.
Right.
Or it was.
That's
They-
where
they
I.
moved.
That's where I was working
Yeah.
when I first got elected. And I was on Fish and Game because I was trying to juggle that full-time
Lighter
machining
schedule,
job
Yeah.
and be in the legislature. And it was Dick had that bill to.
Oh, I know. It's the
So, like-
algae or whatever. The
Yes, they wanted to introduce a certain kind of Chinese fish
to
that
eat
would eat the algae in that
What
pond in
was that-
Hollis.
What was that plant called? It was
Oh, milfoil.
Was it milfoil?
Yeah.
Yeah, it comes off the boats and so
Yeah,
forth.
yeah. And there's like
And-
it just took over the
Yep,
pond.
it does.
And
It
you
does.
either have to dredge it, or you have to get in there and manually remove it. But they have these fish. They're basically, almost like giant suckers, and they just love this stuff, and they'll
Yeah.
just eat it all up. The problem was, it was connected to, eventually the Merrimack River,
Right. So
and
those
all of a
fish
sudden you
would've-
have this invasive species coming in and
Yeah.
kicking all the normal.
Now they're using chemicals.
That's much better.
Well, it depends on how organic it is, but I mean that's what the plan is that they're using
Right.
it.
Yeah.
But
Just,
yeah.
why did they just use like huge quantities of DDT and just get it over with?
Well, what they
know?
do is they put the chemical down, it kills it. It's an herbicide, and then they actually go in with scuba divers and pull whatever is left over that could still grow at some point in time. But should I get back to my background, or should I talk about
no
milfoil and
herbicide's
fish?
good. We can stop there. No, go ahead. Sorry.
But Dick had asked me to run. I was like, this is something new because, as you're aware, being local, Concord's that other area where you don't really know much about and you hear about and things like that.
Right.
But I did win. I remember the walkway going to the State House. I stopped at one of those azalea bushes, and I said, "What did I get myself into?" And then I just said, "You know what? I'll just put 1 foot ahead and go and
See what happens."
Right. I mean, nobody's any better or worse. We're all the same. We just come from different parts of the state.
I had the same. I remember having that deer in the headlights moment when because I didn't expect to win. I figured, nobody's going to elect me.
Did we win or did we lose?
Yeah, exactly. But I remember that moment when I won. They called the vote. I go, oh crap! Now what?
Now what do I do? Yeah.
Oh, we have a call. Hello, welcome to Rock Paper Hand Grenades. Who's on the line?
Hey, Matt. Hey, Gary. Hey, Jack. It's Ross Terrio.
Hey, Ross!
Hey, Ross. School board member Ross Terrio.
Yeah, I just wanted to say hi. Hey, Jack, it's good to see you. I wish you luck in your campaign, but I wanted to warn you.
Yes.
Gary's show is the graveyard of political campaigns.
Ah.
Major Republican who has gone on to lose in the general election has
wait.
been on Gary's show, so I hope he warned you before you came on. I'm going to hang up now and listen to your answer. But again, good luck, and it's good to see you guys.
Absolutely.
No,
Ross.
wait,
What?
Ross.
Ross, you still there?
No.
No.
Wasn't there somebody that won after they came on the show?
There might have been.
Ross, just to answer your question, is that I'm running or potentially running in CD2, which does not include Manchester.
Yeah, there's a good point.
Oh, right. Yes.
So maybe that's the saving grace.
that'll
right
make it
there.
all okay.
Yeah.
Well, also,
I mean-
you're not really running, so technically...
That's right. It's an exploratory
It's
committee.
exploratory,
yes.
so you're
That's
not
right.
really running, so I
That's
think
right.
Ross's point is totally off base.
Yes.
Could I put in a plug for my web page too?
Yeah, absolutely.
Flanagan, Flanagan, 4NH, New Hampshire. And there's a little red button up there if anybody wants to donate. I'll be more than happy to take it. That's the hardest thing for me right now. I mean, the job I think I can do and the commute I can do, it's just that I'm not used to going to people and ask for help, financial support, I guess is
Right,
what they
right.
call it. Because, as you know, in a House race in Concord, you know, we could run it with just a few signs that you buy.
Right, right.
This is a little bit more intricate than that.
Yeah, because there's no money in it.
Yeah. But Ross, it's good to hear from you again. We miss you up in Concord.
Yeah, I don't really like hearing from Ross. He's always hurting my feelings.
I know, right?
Every single time.
Yeah, he's such a downer. He
I
calls
know,
and
I
says
know.
now
Says bad things.
he's going to lose because of us.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, this is, like I said, it's a saving grace. CD2 versus CD1.
So anyway, so you ran for the state legislature.
Yep.
You got this term through, I think, the fault of Bill O'Brien.
With regards to,
Well, because you had supported him, and then all of a sudden I was actually getting stitches out because I had some surgery.
I remember that, yeah.
And I go home to listen to it, and I heard Representative Bates
Oh, with the roll call vote?
saying we have to go to a roll call
Yes.
vote to save time.
Yep.
And I'm going, oh, why not just stick a spike in your eye? You know what I'm saying?
I was for the people at home, there's the House chambers and there's the anteroom, which is behind the actual chambers, and there's a gallery up above that.
Yeah.
But when we were taking breaks, I was in the anteroom, and at least a dozen people had come up to me and said, I can't believe they're requesting this, you know? And it was really a turning point, I think, in the election. And that's where Sean Jasper, I think, stepped in after that. He was on the second ballot. He didn't
Right.
run on the first ballot. But, you know, there were some hurt feelings, obviously, with that whole process. I mean, it was...
Well, it was the thing is people might not know, but in the New Hampshire legislature, when you vote for speaker, it's on a secret ballot.
yes.
Okay. You write I think it's actually a check a box. We usually
Right,
have it
and you got to
printed out.
get 50% plus one.
50% plus one.
Right.
And that's always been the case. I've been up there since 2000, and I have never seen that
No, you're
deviated
right.
from.
Well, actually, though, unless it's like, for example, the Democrats had like in 2000 and was it 12, right? They had so many more votes than we did that we just said, you know, we'll cast one vote for Terry Norelli.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
It was
But
a
that
fait
was
accompli.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at any rate, there's always a secret ballot, and the reason you have a secret ballot is by virtue of the fact that the speaker appoints all the positions.
Right.
He appoints you to which committee you want. He appoints who gets what chairmanship, vice chairmanship,
What seat?
what seat you get to
What
sit in.
parking spot?
Everything there is that's going to control your life for the next 2 years
Right.
is in his hands. So if he knows that you voted against him, it can be detrimental to
Yeah.
just be getting on the committee that you want.
Yeah.
You know, if you want, a lot of people want to get on Fish and Game. I mean, usually there's at least 2 or 3 times as many people who want to get on Fish and Game that can get on Fish and Game.
Because of the workload.
Well, it's also the work's fun.
Yeah.
It's a lot
You
more.
get boat rides, too.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah. It's actually a lot of fun to be on that. Anyway, so there's a lot riding on who wins, and if you have a roll call vote, then the speaker could sit there and say, okay, if they're vindictive, you know, you sit here, you know what I mean?
You sit in the middle of a
You
row
sit in the middle,
back,
yeah,
you know.
in the middle in the row, you know, and so that's why it's so that people can vote for who they think is the best candidate without everybody knowing what they did.
Right.
It's the same with your
Ballot at
vote on when you vote in the election. That's all secret. Nobody is supposed to know that you voted for, you know, Trump or Cruz or whoever. And so O'Brien tried to make the pitch that we should have a roll call vote, and it was obvious that the only real reason you would have that is for vindictive purposes.
Yep.
He says otherwise, but
Right.
that's
I don't understand the logic either.
no.
So-
It was to get you know, names and stuff like that. And once he did that, he maligned everything he had said prior to the election, that he was going to be the new, kinder Bill O'Brien. I know one legislator from up north who specifically said that to me the following day. Said, you know, I came down here. O'Brien said that he was not going to be as vindictive as he was, you know.
Right.
And
You know,
I took his word for it.
Yeah.
And then Then they asked for the roll call vote, and I said no.
You know,
Sorry.
Bill's, I mean, I don't want people to get the wrong idea, too. As I think Bill's a smart guy.
Oh, he's a sharp
He's a
dude.
very, very smart guy. It's just that, you know, sometimes politically, he, you know,
He overplayed his hand.
and he created some of the own problems.
Yeah.
Back in 2010 and 11, where we did some really good things with the budget because we had to, it wasn't the good things about the budget. It was about him.
Right.
You know, and we end up losing a lot of seats in 2012. I
Yeah.
mean, I didn't lose and you didn't lose, but
No.
you know, it's just like I said, he's a really smart guy. Just politically, he didn't do necessarily the right things.
Well, I think he has the habit of always going for the jugular.
Yeah.
And that might be successful in particular instances, but every time you do that,
Right.
you alienate more and more and more people. The more times you do that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
No,
it's
There were some. I mean, even when he was speaker, there were some, you know, bumps in the road, and people were upset too. You know, but even this year, there's bumps in the road too. I mean, it's.
yeah, but I don't see you don't see the animosity that was under O'Brien.
You know, one of the things that when I became majority leader, for the people at home, it wasn't something that I took. I didn't say, "Oh yeah, great, I was going to be majority leader," because I knew how contentious it was going to be.
Yeah.
And it was not an easy thing to do.
No.
But I, you know, the funny thing, when I first started in 2010, I realized there were certain things in the state of New Hampshire that needed to be fixed. You know, our tax system, workers' compensation, our electric rates were always too high. And as a majority leader, I could make changes or help facilitate changes. Working with a committee chairman, working with the Senate, Jeb Bradley was my contemporary as the Senate majority leader.
Right.
So last year, I think we were very, very successful. We got first time in 20 years that we had a tax break on businesses for the business profits tax and business enterprise tax.
Yeah.
Workers' compensation was a very contentious situation. Will Infantine and myself worked on it because they couldn't get it through the Senate, and then the Senate adopted what we passed in the House. And we've been literally pounding away at any chance we can get with electric rates. So, I mean, I can look back and say, you know, was it the right thing to do? If the outcomes weren't what we got, I'd say no, it wasn't worth it. But we did have some very good successes last year. And one other thing that I'm very proud of is that with all the hurt feelings, we were able to not solve those, but redirect them into being very bill specific. Once we started getting bills into committees,
Yeah.
and in whether they were, you know, friends of Bill's or friends of the speaker or whatever, you know, I would be more than willing to help them out, working with the committee chairman to get stuff done.
Right.
If we could. I mean, if it was a
Yeah, if
good
it was
bill.
something everybody agreed on,
Exactly,
why not? Yeah.
exactly, and help facilitate that. And you know, there were some people that needed to be worked on with the changes. They didn't like the way the process worked too, and they were very.
When you say
skilled.
worked on, you mean like
No,
been back with a
No,
shed and
put,
a
no,
small
no,
bath?
no, no. It means put my arm. It's put my arm
You get a
around.
lot
their-
done that way.
It
can.
Well, it was more like put my arm around their shoulder and said, "Listen, let's go talk to the speaker and try to work out these differences so we're back to where we were and being productive." Because the whole thing is, and I don't want to speak for you, but I'm going to assume the same, is that we're there to make things better, not make things
No,
worse.
no,
Yeah,
that's not the way I
okay.
go up.
Okay.
No, I threatened to punch one of my fellow members of the judiciary in the nose today.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh, you've been holding out.
No.
Tell us that story.
No, I was just picking on him. But
Oh, okay.
Representative Birch sits next to
Oh
me on
yeah,
the judiciary.
Yeah. What's he out near Keene,
Is he? I thought he was
Cheshire County?
something. He's right near the Vermont or something like that.
Yeah, that's Cheshire County.
Yeah,
or maybe
yeah.
he's further north.
Yeah, he's fun.
Well, he's a lawyer.
Oh, he's a wicked
Yeah.
lawyer. He's a wicked lawyer.
Yeah, and
I guess that's redundant, but no, he's I forget, we were having the age-old battle over jury nullification,
Oh yeah. Okay.
and he is
That's
so
that and civil forfeiture. Those are the two burning issues in judiciary.
right, and so he is totally in the tank for the judiciary. Okay, I'm just saying he's in the tank. So
Maybe
anyway,
he thinks he's going to be a judge.
I do believe that that's what his intention is. And so anyway, he said something about Dan Itzabill that Claire Roulard and I. Claire's awesome.
Yes.
She's in. The woman's just
I
wonderful.
sat in on your committee, by the way.
When?
Well, after I stepped down as the majority leader, there was a player to be named later.
Oh.
It was later, and they grabbed me and said, "Would you sit on judiciary?" That was
because we had a seat missing. Yeah.
Yeah, CACR 5, the one that allowed people to sue towns based on performance or whatever. It was modeled after the Bill Duncan case,
Right.
where he didn't have standing to go after the state.
Yes. Yeah.
You remember that?
Kind of vaguely, but
You were out that day.
yeah, because I don't remember you sitting there. So yeah, that makes sense. But no, anyway, so he's obviously in the tank for the judiciary. Anything they say is great.
Yep.
And I am not even close to in the tank. And so anyway, we were going. He said something about the amendment that I offered on Dan Itzabill, and I just want to punch you right in the nose right now. But he knows I'm kidding. I hope.
Or does he?
Or does he? Yeah.
Yeah, he's,
No.
I mean, he would be one of the characters. I mean,
He is a character.
We have characters. And Gary's I mean,
There's a lot of characters.
in his moments, Gary has moments.
I have
What-
a hard time believing that.
Yeah, I know, right?
I just fit in. I'm just kind of a wallflower. I fit in. Well, I missed it today. I was supposed to speak today,
On.
but you guys called it short. Dick Marple's bill. Allodial land rights.
I don't even know what that is.
I don't either.
Allodial,
Sounds like some fancy legal
Is
term.
it?
it is.
sound good?
It's
Yeah.
a legal term. You know,
Yeah.
it's like estoppel or something that you know.
Well,
But if people at home, Dick Marple has a way of bringing out these bills that deal with sort of nebulous terms that go back to the signing of the Constitution.
Oh,
like,
really?
Or
like real,
predate-
like
predate-
real money.
right.
Like there was a bill that was heard on the Labor Committee that dealt with someone cashing a check and getting real money.
Yeah.
Well, real money is a dollar bill, coins, or whatever.
No.
But I'm sure there's some
It's
legal.
got to be gold or
gold or
silver,
silver,
probably.
yes.
Yeah.
And we were like, this is.
Have we had him on the show? That name is very
Yes, we
familiar.
did. We did.
Where's
I remember now.
I
yeah.
love Dick, but the thing is,
Is he from Hudson?
no, he's from Hooksett.
Yes, that's right.
So I love Dick because I shouldn't say that.
Oh boy.
In a brotherly way.
Richard Marshall. I love Richard Marshall.
That's the guy from Stowe.
No, that's yeah. I guess it is.
You've been talking about Dick Marple.
Marple, right. So anyway, I think outside the box. Dick, I don't think knows where the box is.
Yeah, he had a bill. I don't know if you remember it, where and we're not picking on it because there's bills everybody puts through.
But
that
he
are
does some archaic things like this.
quirky, yeah,
And it's actually pretty cool because you learn something every time he introduces legislation. So allodial land rights, you want to know what it is?
go ahead.
Pretty simple. It's an absolute land right.
Oh, I should know that. I have my real estate license.
Well, no, you wouldn't. This wouldn't even come into real estate.
Well, if
I'll
it's
tell you
lands
why.
right, lands right.
It is, but allodial land rights are like when New Hampshire separated from the Crown.
Mm-hmm.
New Hampshire had the allodial land rights to the territory of New Hampshire.
Okay.
It had an absolute right by its own decree to that territory.
Is this something to match the 10th Amendment in the U.S. Constitution, where states' rights, and he was sort of spinning off that?
No, because once we joined in with the federal government or became part of the 13 colonies, you almost by definition relinquish some of those
Some
rights.
of those rights, yes.
But an allodial, the best way to describe an allodial land right would be like our embassy in Canada. The property that's
Yes, okay,
on
yep.
is an absolute land right
Of the United States.
of the United States.
Right.
That property can't be taxed. They can't.
Be
They
attacked.
can't run a highway through it.
Right.
They can't. Police can't go on that
They have
property.
no jurisdiction.
They have no
unless we
jurisdiction.
allow them in there. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And it would. So if we went to New Hampshire, went and started defining land rights as allodial land rights, you could do anything on your property. You could start burying, radioactive equipment.
Or no gas pipelines could come through unless the state
No,
granted it.
no, they couldn't.
Right. Or power lines from Northern Pass.
They could not do that either.
Right.
Because if you have an absolute land right, nobody can cross that
Right.
border, your border. you could have a house of ill repute on your property, and the police would not be able to come in and do anything.
That would never happen in Brookline.
No, but we were thinking of, if it goes through, maybe getting some sheep or something. But anyway, so
I was thinking outside the box.
So going back to what I was talking
Right,
about at
right.
the majority office,
Yeah.
though, with 700 bills, all of these bills that you're talking about would have to be reviewed by myself, the majority office, Meg.
so that
Stone.
one you would have had to look up what is an alloidial land right first, just to find out if
We might leave it up to the committee to do that. I mean, some of them would say, here.
You'd have to figure out how to even spell that.
I know.
Alloidial? I don't even know how to spell that.
ALLOIDEL or something like that.
Something like that.
AL at the end, Alodia.
I don't know. Anyway,
But
so
it just goes to show you that we do things up in Concord that
normal people would
would
not
never even
no.
delve into.
But
Yeah.
it's actually cool though, because like yourself, how long you been in
This is
the
my 6th year.
sixth year term,
It's my 3rd term. Yeah.
third term?
Seems like forever, too.
Wouldn't you say you're a jack, of almost all trades and a master of none? Like you have to learn so much about so many different things.
Up there, you mean?
Yeah,
I will tell people that every day I learn something.
it's amazing.
Because, whether it's procedure that we handle in the session or, how do you amend a bill before it's even introduced? And there are skilled people up there.
There's some wicked talented people up there.
And then there's some that will just push, like, there's a lot of bills that come out of, there's a bunch of lawyers that put out bills called Office of Legislative Services. I mean, they're a good group, but occasionally you'll get a bill that's introduced that you tell them what you want to do, and the finished product, you're like, well, and okay, that's the best we can do. And then you get it to committee, and the committee basically has at you. Well, what about this word? What about that? And it's really, and that's what I'm seeing is that it's easy for a committee to pick at the wording of your bill than it is for the concept of the bill.
Right. Yeah,
You
they'll
know?
oftentimes tear apart.
Line
why
15,
line 15.
Yeah.
Why does this? It references RSA, 15:6 when it should be 7, and what
Well,
and next thing you know, you're like lost in the weeds when conceptually it's still great, but they're just
Yeah.
but.
But that's the way it works. I mean, it's actually a good checks and balance system because if it's a good bill, well written, you can get it passed. And if it's not, then you can try to massage it and get it through a committee if you know the right people and get the right votes. Negotiating. But if it's a bad bill, it's going nowhere. I mean, it's and rightfully so. It's hard. Our founding fathers were right. It has to get through the House. It's got to get through the Senate, and the governor still has the veto power. Other than for constitutional amendments, they have no authority over constitutional amendments. So yeah, I mean, the system works. People
Right.
make fun of us because of how many we are and how diverse we are.
Oh yeah, we get some pretty ridiculous bills too. I mean,
Yeah.
the one for prostitution, and there's some crazy stuff because you got 400 people, and not all of them are as normal as me
Right.
or Jack.
Right. You kind of set the bar, though, for normalcy.
Yeah,
You know,
pretty
Matt,
much.
though, the interesting thing is, with 400 people, though, there's usually someone in the room that knows, professionally or personally, the topic that's being debated.
Oh yeah.
You know, whether it's a
Yeah,
plumber
that's a
or a
good point,
lawyer
yeah.
or, a surgeon. We have a number of doctors that are serving. So if there's an issue that we're dealing with from a medical, remember the tanning bed bill and the
Yeah.
and the minors, that there was basically a child under 18.
Yeah.
This bill bothered me. No
So
matter
it's a bunch of BS.
well,
actually.
actually, when you talk to the doctors, in Health and Human Services, there was a bill that says if you're under the age of 18, you can't use a tanning booth, even if you have parental
Permission.
consent.
Oh, right. I remember
Yes.
you talking about that. Yeah.
This
yeah.
bothered me.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And Gary Azarian, who I like, he's from Salem. He's a very bright guy. He came to me and said, "Jack, look it. Nobody testified against the bill. The tanning people want the bill." And the dermatologist came in and explained to us that he was the prime or co-sponsor of the bill. The dermatologist was basically explaining that younger people's skin will burn easier than adults just because of the acclimation that we have from being out in the sun for a longer period of time.
No brain, no pain. You mean?
I guess there's
Yeah.
no fear in the younger ones, but
Yeah.
but the point is there was a physical purpose for having them not to be able to use tanning booths, and then the argument came as well, we don't let under 18 drink or smoke. So I reluctantly supported it because I sort of had to as part of leadership. But that was one of the bills that passed that I never really got a great feel for.
No, I don't care what they say. I mean,
Parents have a lot of rights.
parents have the right to do it if they want. I mean, if the thing is, I think they should be informed. Like, in other words, if a parent is going to bring a 14-year-old to get tanned, they should have to read, this is what the consequences is.
yeah.
Your child's skin is just developing and it is not healthy to do this on a regular basis.
Right.
Or limit the quantities of visits per year. But if a girl wants to get a tan just before a prom, I mean, that's insane not to do it. Because what you're doing is you're forcing them to use whatever chemicals they use, and
to make them call it
that
that.
is
Yeah.
can't be good for you.
The other thing is, I had a bill that was heard in Labor Committee this week.
Right.
I guess if you want to work and you're under the age of 16, the superintendent or the principal have to sign off on it, and the certificate goes with the employer to save the employer any liability, I guess, meaning that educationally and that the child is capable of doing the work. Well, a couple reps came in and said, what happens if you're homeschooling your children? The principal or superintendent have no idea anything about your child. So they wanted it so it was parents who had the right to sign the certificates.
What about a kid who's emancipated? What about a kid who's
Well, this is under the age of 16.
right?
So
yes, but there
I don't-
are kids who are
that
16
that are emancipated.
Yeah, because their parents are alcoholics and they just had to get out of the house.
Right.
And
Aren't
they're
they usually in foster home though?
not necessarily.
Not all of them, huh?
No, I don't
I'm
know.
glad that's not coming to my committee. It's hard enough dealing with the issue of
Oh, emancipated minors. That's what they call that. Yeah.
yes,
Right.
yeah.
But
So-
but that's the thing is like you say, there's when we get up there's a lot of people who know a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
It's amazing the quantity of knowledge you have in the New Hampshire legislature. It's just phenomenal.
Yeah.
You know,
Which-
honestly.
which is diametrical opposite to the Senate, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
That was a
That's
joke.
A good point.
That was
No.
a joke at home. I mean, it was,
So anyway, if you run for the federal,
yes.
what's
What's my cause?
your cause? What's your passion?
Couple things. I mean, obviously the pipeline's affecting the southwest corner, and a lot of people are very frustrated about that process.
For or against?
I'm against it.
Okay.
And there's a lot of reasons. I don't think you have a long enough show, but it won't lower electric rates. And trust me, if people think that they're going to bring a pipeline to their home and sell natural gas, they're mistaken completely.
Why?
Because it's a 30-inch pipe. They're not going to run all these little, 2-inch pipes off to every single home that's buried out in the woods. I mean, they're going to bring it into Drake, Massachusetts, and then it's going to be rerouted up the Concord lateral and go to Manchester and Concord, but only for more dense populated areas, cities.
Right.
So that's where they sell most
But
natural gas.
yeah, but won't it
Be
drive
cheaper?
down the?
No.
Why?
It's a $5 billion project, at least, right? Big dig. I mean, they knew how much that was going to be. But it's a $5 billion project. Do you think they're going to pay $5 billion and then sell only 40% of their gas? The project will probably go out to Canada and overseas. Because the numbers I'm hearing is anywhere between 4% and 50% is sold. The governor told me, I met her on the stairwell, and she told me that it was, she heard it was 40%. But the point being is, when you add on the tariffs, that is the cost for building the pipeline, and then realize that the majority of it is going to be going overseas, there's no need for it. And the solution, this is a problem.
Why do you say it's going overseas? So
Because
it-
the
so
pipe-
so the pipeline comes up, goes through New Hampshire,
No.
and it goes right out to where?
to Drake it.
To Drake it. So
yes.
it goes back down to Massachusetts.
Exactly. Goes up into Massachusetts,
I mean,
down
up into
the New
New
Hampshire,
Hampshire.
and down into Massachusetts, and then it goes to Drake it, and then Drake it feeds into the Concord Lateral, it's called. It goes up into Manchester, Nashua, Manchester,
Right.
and Concord.
Right.
And then Drake it actually pumps up towards Canada, and they redirected the direction of the pipeline so it goes north instead of south. And they got an approval, federal approval, to allow them to sell overseas. So this natural gas, is not destined for New Hampshire. Some of it is, but the most of it isn't. And the worst thing is we needed more natural gas for 3 months, November, December, and January, our cold months,
Yeah.
for new electricity because everybody's using natural gas to heat. So the demand went up. and then the spot market was up, so it ended up costing people more money during those 3 difficult months. So they're using a sledgehammer that when a Band-Aid would work.
Hey, I know I should know this, but I really don't. I have propane at my house.
Yes.
Is that
Delivered.
the same thing
No.
as natural gas?
No. I
What's
don't
the
believe so.
difference?
Liquid petroleum gas is natural gas. LPG is distilled from oil. See, I'm not sure. There's probably an engineer in the State House. Maybe we can ask them.
There might be an engineer in the State House.
Science and technology, they'd know.
I'll go down there.
And ask them.
I was down in ag, first time ever speaking at the ag committee.
They had a big committee on GMOs.
That's what I was down there for.
Oh, yeah.
One of my it's funny because one of my constituents, Selma, is really into the GMO labeling,
Yeah.
and she and I support it. I mean, I think if I'm somebody who's very, very allergic to nuts.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah,
It
labeling is important.
labeling is hugely important to me. And because I've almost kicked the bucket a few times in my
Really?
life from peanuts. I mean, it gets that bad.
Oh, wow.
So I can absolutely believe that they can make a frankenseed that a plant will come out and maybe have just enough of the characteristics of a peanut.
Yeah.
And it's food that I've eaten all my life with no problem. So I ingest a bunch of it, especially if it's in like say vanilla bean. They come up with a hybrid of vanilla bean to make vanilla ice cream.
Did they really?
No, I'm just saying.
Oh,
What if,
okay.
what if
okay,
they
yeah.
do?
Yeah.
Well, I eat vanilla ice cream. I never had a problem with it, and it's cold, so my throat won't get itchy right away. I could easily ingest enough of that for it to just kill me, drop me like a ton of bricks. And if there's no labeling, but if it's labeled, it says GMO, and it says the seed in this is so and so, I can try a little bit of it.
Well, I think.
And then see if there's a reaction. If there is, I don't
okay.
eat anymore. But if
think-
there's no labeling, how the heck can I possibly know?
I think, and I was talking to who was it? Was it Tara Sad? She's been off again, on again chairman, or is there somebody else that you can actually label it as a non-GMO,
Correct.
but you're not forced to say if it is a GMO.
Yeah, but if there's no labeling law, it doesn't necessarily. Yeah, I don't know. I think I believe in truth in advertising, and I think it's the same thing as the right to know bills we get in judiciary. People have a right to know,
Right.
and
you know
this
that-
is a fundamental right to know.
The
And
other thing-
why is that a big deal?
You talk to some of the nutritionists out there, and one of their main concerns is the body is used to eating what we consider normal food. So if it's genetically modified, that's what GMO stands for, is what are we doing? Is our system able to digest it? Is it causing irritation to the whole digestive tract? I mean, I don't think these questions have been answered, but other than philosophically, that this is why some people have this problem and that problem, or allergies and things like that.
Yeah.
So I mean, I heard there was 48 witnesses at that.
Oh, there was a
cafe.
lot.
They were lined out at the door.
Yeah, I just got up and basically said what I just said to you about, as somebody who's allergic. I know that they're going to eventually make cross something, and I'm going to have an allergic reaction to
sure.
it. And if I don't, if I
No,
don't have
ahead.
any idea
Right.
that this is something that I should see a red flag. I mean,
Right.
most stuff is pretty benign and it's not going to be a problem, but it only takes one thing. I mean, the last time I accidentally ate a cookie with peanuts, within a half an hour between the time I took it and time that I got to the ER, my blood pressure was down to like 40/20 or
Wow.
30/20.
No kidding. Wow.
Oh yeah, it was
That's
like
scary.
when they do they pump your arm. I couldn't even feel it.
Wow.
I could not feel it.
So what do
It
they
was-
give you, Benadryl or whatever?
They
or-
just pump you full of liquids like you wouldn't believe. They
Really?
just
Huh.
the nurse is really pretty.
Well,
I said-
that's right there.
So
that
I
solved
said,
the problem.
I said, no, this is this only way I can find. I like just talking to pretty girls, so I'll go to any lengths to do so.
Sure.
Go
Apparently.
eat some more. Right? I mean,
But so,
I think the
yes.
verdict's out on GMOs because, I mean, every time you have a seed, if it mixes with other seeds and it cross-pollinates, then you got a GMO, even inadvertently.
Correct.
I mean, even if it's not purposeful.
Right,
So-
but then you can label it as such. But if they're
Right.
deliberately crossbreeding,
Right.
something with something else, I should have, as a consumer, just like they made a law that told them they had to put the ingredients on packages because
Right.
they didn't want to do that.
Right. Did you know the labeling on packaging falls under federal law and not state law?
So,
I'm just saying that's
Well,
what
yeah,
the
but-
manufacturers are going to fall back on.
right, I
No.
get that, but Monsanto has got too dang much money to pay off too many congressmen.
Not me.
Not you,
Not me,
but I'm
but
saying
I know.
that's where that is.
Yeah.
You know what? If you when you get elected, I'll be more positive. No, I don't
Don't
think that's.
tap,
I don't
man.
think that's real wood.
Oh, is it? Okay.
I don't
well.
think so. That's the things you got to look into because I will tell
I got
you.
a bigger issue though.
Well, like for instance, the drug companies, they bought off the United States Congress.
I mean-
Insurance companies bought off the United States Congress.
When you look at the incumbents and they're sitting on really war chests of over $1 million, they got to owe somebody a favor for that money.
Oh yeah,
I mean, and it's not just Democrats. I mean, a friend of mine lives in upstate New York, and he was telling me that the congresswoman up there has got over $1 million.
right.
So, I mean, I don't expect to have the millions of dollars. I'm getting, and believe it or not, people are donating to me, and I'm really, really happy about it. And I'll have some endorsements as time goes on if I declare.
Right. I
But
declare. Go ahead.
but the point that I wanted to share when you said, what are the things that really interest me, is I think the vets in this country are really getting screwed. I mean, we have vets that are dying waiting for medical care.
Right.
We have vets almost 1 an hour committing suicide because they can't get their permanent injury adjudicated with the court system that they have. I mean, it's awful the way they're being treated, and they're the ones that are giving the most to this country. They're the true 1%. So those things really bother me. I think they should be getting the best care, not the random care, and we really need to do something about that. And I think some people have dropped the ball on that.
Oh, it's big time. It's big
Yeah.
time. I
Yeah.
just we only got like 2 minutes, but I just
Has it
remember.
been that?
Oh yeah, it's wicked.
Goes
I
quick.
told you it's wicked quick.
Jeez.
You can come on again.
Well, that's all right.
But I just remember, well, what's that big medical facility for veterans?
Oh, Robert Reed, Walter Reed.
Walter Reed, and the director was like doing jogging around the building and stuff like that, while the
Yeah.
people inside who can't even frickin' move. It's
Well,
like,
here's a
what an
stat.
arrogance.
Here's a
scum.
stat. 307,000 vets died waiting for medical coverage, and I think there are 330,000 employees that work for the VA.
Wow.
So
No
almost
kidding.
1 per employee have died waiting for. Now it's getting a little bit better. They had the Clay Hunt
Yeah, but
Act passed, but that deals with PTSD.
But the thing is you've got a president that's not investigating. They're not doing any.
They're not firing them.
They're not firing anybody.
No, I know.
I don't really like Trump for a lot of reasons,
Mm-hmm.
but I almost want to vote for him just to hear the words "you're fired," because you have that on all these different. You've got all these politicians.
Yeah.
Who they get up there and they say, "Hey, my cousin needs alcoholic cousin needs a job," and they put him in environment and agriculture. Or they put him in the VA. They put him here. They put him there, and they can't be fired because all of a sudden their funding might be questioned because that legislator, that congressman, sits on the budget committee and
Right.
it's all a scam. We are being screwed.
Well, look at the issue about Social Security, and you're going to tell you run out of time, but in about 10 to 15 years, the second or third most expensive expenditure in the federal budget is going to be interest on the debt.
Yeah.
So when they say, what are you going to do to solve Social Security? How about if we just balance the budget and
How
take
about-
all of that money for
How about
interest?
quit taking money from Social Security? How about quit covering people that never earned it?
Oh, I know.
It's a
I know.
tax. I mean, they've taken money out of my paycheck since I was 17 years old to put in Social Security so that if something happened, I'd be taken care of.
Right.
It's an insurance policy that I
Absolutely.
paid into,
Right.
and they use it as a slush fund, and they cover people that never deserved it, never paid into it, because it gets votes.
Remember the bounty bill that I had a couple years ago where employees could make suggestions to save the state money?
Yeah,
And they get a piece, it's like a suggestion box.
yeah.
Well, then it died every time. It got through the House and died in the Senate. Maybe we could do that in Washington, where we can incentivize our federal employees to find ways to save us money, and then give them a piece of the action. And between that and the interest on the debt, we'll have more than enough money to pay for Social Security, even for the ones that don't deserve it.
Right, right.
So those are the things that we need some creative thinking.
We
I
need
think.
honesty. It's all it would take is people who
You
are
couldn't run
honest.
then.
No,
No, I know what you mean, though.
it's a good point. That really hurts, but
Yeah. No, Gary, you know how much. Gary, you're great. I mean, not only is he an honest guy, but he's very entertaining at times, especially when he gets up to speak.
That's what I hear.
He
Yep.
is quite the guy. You never know what's going to happen.
no. Try to keep them guessing. Hey, Jack, thank you very much.
That was my pleasure,
Yes.
Gary.
Thank
Good,
you, Jack.
Matt,
good luck exploring.
I'd reach apart, but I'll say goodbye when it's over.
Yeah,
We'll
it's
see
a
you guys
long,
next
long
week.
way. Bye, everybody.